Well, this is a bit awkward. Greetings there and welcome people to YouTube. This is Essence of It and I'm doing a video response. However, this video response is going to be a little bit different because I'm responding to God of Wonders, which is a 2009 mockumentary made by Creationist. What do I mean by mockumentary? Well, it attempts to be a documentary. However, it is also nothing like a documentary. So, yes, we'll go through it. I'll be making this in segments, so yeah, it won't be one giant block of footage of me going back and forth to the video. However, I have no structured plan on how long a segment is going to be. It's just going to be go as long as I can before eventually giving up and wanting to commit suicide. So, yes. With that said, why don't we get straight to it? So it looks like finally time to get down to it. Wait, what? Another one? I mean, we've just had this dramatic music with the footage of the animals, which is just ripped off Nat Geographic and Animal Planet. You know, I've seen the hummingbird, the seals, the butterflies. I've seen all this before. Can we just skip this and get to the actual video?
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. And since the dawn of creation, God's attributes are seen and known by all. As a building requires a builder, creation demands a creator. And as an outstanding design points to a gifted designer, our amazing universe reveals the glory of an awesome creator. God's wonders surround us, and these marvels reveal much about our Creator. Through creation we glimpse His power and wisdom, His majesty and care. Creation is speaking to those who will listen. I'm Dr. John Whitcomb. Join us now as we explore the message of creation, conscience, and the glory of God.
Well, Mr. John C. Whitcomb, I took issue with a number of things you just stated there. However, I'm sure I'll have ample opportunity to pull them apart throughout this entire video. So, let's continue.
Throughout creation, God's power is displayed. From the new growth of plants in the spring to new life forming in the womb.
Wait, so it's forming life, so it is not life yet. Okay.
Wherever we turn, the Creator's energizing power is unmistakable. He guides the stars in their courses above. He formed the majestic mountains. He maintains the beneficial seasons. And in his hand is the life of every living thing.
You know, the fact that we have a universe tells us that we need a creator. Because you see, the universe has a beginning and therefore requires a cause. The energy in the universe has a beginning and therefore requires a cause. And people say, well, you know, okay, fine, God made the universe, but then who made God? But you see, God is eternal. God doesn't have a beginning and therefore doesn't require a cause. And that may be a little hard to grasp, but there's nothing irrational about an eternal being. There is something irrational about something popping into existence from nothing, because that violates causality.
What I find harder to grasp is how an astrophysicist, and Jason actually is an astrophysicist, he is one of the few creationists who actually has an official PhD and not from some dingy creationist forms university somewhere. He's actually got an official PhD. What I find hard to accept is how you don't seem to understand causality, aka cause and effect. This is extremely troubling. I mean, the fact that you have your position does not change the facts that cause and effect only applies to the rearranging of matter and the transferal of energy. It also does not change the fact that prior to the existence of the universe, you cannot then apply universal standards because the universe is yet to exist. Without mass, without time, etc., how can physics operate without these things which physics dictate? You see the problem there?
You know, a famous evolutionist was once asked, where did the Big Bang come from? And he said simply, if somebody ever asks you where mass energy came from, just ask them where God came from. And I think he really said something much more meaningful than he thought. Something had to be eternal. Either mass energy is eternal or God is eternal.
Or he just figured out the quickest way to deal with your argument, rather than having to go and explain every single detail. You see, the addition of a God creating the universe does not solve the original problem. All it does is add extra assumptions onto the idea that the universe itself could come into existence, or be eternal. And you don't require something to be eternal just to come into existence, because, you can't just assert that on the basis of, well, I think so. As for this famous evolutionist, I find it odd you give no name. Also, I don't think it's the field for evolution which discusses biological diversity to give you arguments for physics. Biology and physics are two different scientific fields. I don't know if you knew that.
Well, science has taught us a lot about mass energy. One of the things is it wears out. Mass energy eternal doesn't make any sense at all. God is eternal does make sense.
The issue here is that you're equating mass and energy with the universe. Mass and energy, along with time, do make up our known universe, what we can perceive. However, this does not mean that a universe can exist in a different state. Just imagine we are locked in a room, all we know of is inside this room. We cannot then claim that there cannot be a different type of room. For example, we're locked inside the living room. We cannot then therefore claim, well, a room can never be a bathroom or kitchen. That's a very basic understanding of it. But yeah, that's sort of the same thing. The universe could have existed in a completely different state. Or there could have been a cause for the universe that we don't know about. And just there being a cause does not equate God. For example, multiverse theory. Just because we are locked inside this room and we can only see this one room, does not mean that then there are not hundreds of other, or thousands, or even, infinity. There could be an infinite number of rooms outside this room. But we would never know about it, because sadly we are stuck in our universe. We can only have an understanding of inside our universe. We can try looking for little hints here and there to try and understand possibly what happened in the very first moments or try and grasp a concept of what happened before the universe. However, it in no way just inserts God.
As we read in that first chapter of Hebrews, the heavens, the whole universe is growing old and wearing out like a garment to be cast off, but thou, O Lord, endureth forever.
Well, we'll be long gone before our solar system's dead, let alone the universe. And as for God enduring forever, tell me what happened on the seventh day of creation.
The Bible explains there's one God who's the creator and the source of all life and energy. The forces of nature are energized and guided by his hand. Who hasn't felt the rumble of an approaching storm and considered God's might?
Well, how about me and most Christians? And you might think, well, how can I speak for Christians? And the answer is really simple. Lightning rods. Lightning rods are these little conductors placed on the top of tall buildings that are deliberately put there to be struck by lightning. This is so that the lightning is then carried down to the ground and then earthed underneath the ground. This prevents the lightning striking the buildings, such as the church spire, and setting it alight. Did Christians really believe that lightning storms were the energy of their God? Why are they so scared of them? Just a quick question.
Thunderstorms are an amazing display of the Creator's might. An average thunderstorm pours down several 100 million gallons of water, equivalent to the amount of water that flows over Niagara Falls every 6 minutes. The same storm releases 10 million kilowatt hours of energy, equivalent to a 20-kiloton nuclear warhead. And large, severe thunderstorms can be 10 or even 100 times more energetic. At any given moment, hundreds of storms are occurring somewhere around the world. This amounts to about 16 million thunderstorms each year. The accompanying lightning illuminates an entire skyline. A bolt may reach over 5 miles in length, contain over 100 million electrical volts, and soar to temperatures approaching 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit in a split second. Hotter than the surface of the sun. On average, lightning strikes the Earth 100 times every second. Several million bolts reach Earth each day. The tremendous power, the incredible speed, and the glaring flash are clear manifestations of our Creator's majestic power.
You know what isn't very majestic? Drowning a load of people or flooding large areas of land, as that sometimes happens when a thunderstorm occurs, a large one, and the rivers burst and the flooding occurs. So, yeah, to talk about his majestic power when people can die is very ironic, to simply say the least, especially coming from people who believe in an all-loving God, one who kind of promised to stop flooding us and killing us after Genesis.
Thunderstorms are an incredible phenomenon in the atmosphere. They're awesome, they're powerful, they're frightening. They have all kinds of energy releases. That's basically what's happening, is a thunderstorm is releasing large quantities of energy in our atmosphere by vertical motions. Thunderstorms contribute a major amount to the water cycle. The hydrologic cycle, water is evaporated from the oceans, the vapors drifted over the continents, and then it falls as rain and then flows back into the sea. Thunderstorms are a major part of that cycle where it converts that water vapor back into liquid water, or rain falls to the earth.
And now, time for a reminder from reality. Yes, storms are a major part of the hydrological cycle. However, the distribution is extremely unequal. Thanks to the air currents that surround the Earth, we have bands of wet and dry zones. And this has caused chaos in many different countries where first drought occurs, and then that also causes famine, that causes disease. So, glory of God, right? And before someone attempts to retort this with some apologetic claptrap, let me explain exactly what I mean. It seems to be that if God exists and he has control over the weather and the hydrological cycle, he is merely punishing people based upon their location.
Lightning and thunderstorms in Scripture are often used as a symbol of God's wrath against rebellious people.
Well, of course, this is a method of control through ancient answers. I mean, you start off with the ancient answer of why do storms occur? Oh, it's a god, a deity, or a demon. And then from that you can say, oh, he's angry at you because you did something that I don't agree with, and he is on my side, and he'll continue to put out his wrath until you change your ways to how I view it, because I'm a messenger for him. Believe it. You know, this is a sort of logic that had people sacrificing people at the bottom of volcanoes, etc. So, yeah.
But everybody has been struck by the awesome beauty of lightning and storm and the smell of the fresh air.
Well, I've got some news for you. The air that you think is fresh isn't so fresh. It's actually the result of the Actinomycetes bacteria, which, when in moist conditions, for example, straight after a rainstorm, they begin multiplying, breeding, and they create spores. And then, as it slowly starts to dry, so immediately after the rain has stopped, it will start to dry. As soon as that starts occurring, these spores start lifting off the ground into the air, and we inhale them. And that's what gives us that crispness after a storm. I mean, prior to the storm, things just get stuffy. It's with the extra pressure coming from the storm. I don't know if you've ever had that tin sort of taste at the back of your throat. So, yeah, that's a bit misinformed there. It's really spores that you're breathing in that you're kind of congratulating.
The lightning itself puts together two gases in the air, nitrogen and hydrogen, to make fertilizer.
When the lightning stroke goes through the air, it releases the nitrogen in the vapor form and absorbs it into the water, and it falls down and fertilizes the ground. So our crops are fertilized by the nitrogen produced by thunderstorms.
So in other words, physics and chemistry shit happens, therefore God. Yes, this isn't the only way for nitrogen to actually get into the soil. We have symbiotic relationships going on in certain plants where they have root nodules, and these root nodules contain nitrogen-fixing bacteria which take nitrogen from the air and actually put it in the soil or give it directly to the plant. A very good example of this is clover. This then leads me on to another point, which is the very poor design of the system, at least coming from the creationist perspective, which is that the earth and its design was made for us, i.e. if you look at Genesis chapter 1 verses 28 through 31, we inherit the earth and the crops and the animals, etc., and we're supposed to go out there and tame it. However, when you go to farmers, you'll see that they'll do crop cycles, which they have to do, where they'll stop making their main producing crops such as corn or rapeseed, and they'll put plants like clover there for a couple of generations. This is because the soil needs to be replenished with the nitrogen, because our crops are so efficient at drawing out this nitrogen that if they just kept planting the same crop there, it would just kill the soil. So yes, considering that this planet and this system was apparently created for us, it is a major hindrance for us, because, you know, it's not like, oh, you just don't want to do work. No, farmers do a lot of work just planting and maintaining one crop. Now, they have to plant, maintain, switch. Plant, maintain, switch. Plant. You know, they have to go through this entire system, and, you know, crops like clover are not going to be as profitable as food-producing crops or, you know, oil-producing crops for cooking or biofuels. They're never going to be as cost-efficient as that, so just thought I'd point that little thing out.
4,000 years ago, Job pondered the Almighty's display with these words: He binds up the water in his thick clouds, yet the clouds are not broken under it. He stirs up the sea with his power. and by his understanding he breaks up the storm. Indeed, these are the mere edges of his ways, and how small a whisper we hear of him. But the thunder of his power, who can understand?
The book of Job is one of the books that creationists and Christians in general should always stay away from. I mean, this is a guy who had his livestock stolen, his slaves slain, he was diseased, he was shunned, and to top it all off, the biggest thing that happened in my books was that his entire family was slaughtered by God, just for the sake of the devil came up and had a bet with him. So, yeah, you might not want to use Job.
So thunderstorms and natural events that are highly energetic, I think they're a lesson about if God can do this, what must he be like?
While we may not fully grasp this cumulative power, these grand displays should cause all to stand in awe of our great God.
Can I just correct something quickly? Just because creationists are incapable of understanding how things occur does not reflect on the rest of humanity. Your ignorance is not our ignorance. Just because, say, for example, Bill O'Reilly doesn't understand how the tide works does not mean the rest of us do. And just because you don't understand how the weather works does not mean that the rest of us do. The fact remains that the processes of the weather go on regardless of whether your God exists or not. So, yeah, that's kind of a null point. So yes, anyway, this is the end of the first segment. I've gone through about 1/6 of the content so far. I hope you guys have enjoyed. This is a bit new in the fact that it's structured very differently to an average video response. So, yeah, anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. If you did enjoy, please click like. I just want to see whether or not this is worth pursuing, and I look forward to doing the other segments if you guys do enjoy it. So, yeah, this is Essence of 4. Out.